In today's video, we're going to be answering when and which FUT fantasies should you be buying. So, just before the video does start, a quick little ad on a trading service I offer over on Twitch. For the cheapest premium trading service for just £4, €4, or free with Amazon Prime. You'll get yourself daily trading and investing guides covering both Xbox and PlayStation with an array of different techniques depending on your budget. I've been trading for over 10 years, making over 100 million on multiple titles, and recently making over 10 million in the first month for the last 3 years. So as we said, we are going to be walking through which FUT fantasies I like to buy and when I would recommend buying them in today's video. We're going to be looking at a bit of research from last year. We're going to be showing you guys which cards I think should do better this year. We're going to talk about multiple different outcomes we could have, and we'll be showing you guys how well they did last year. So, without further ado, what we're going to do is we are going to cover when should you go and buy FUT fantasies. Now, I've brought up two lots of data to be able to give us a buy time. Those two bits of data are last year's Team 1 FUT fantasies and this year's Road to the Finals who didn't play until 2 weeks' time. Now, I'll bring up why that's relevant when we look at them, but without further ado, let's have a look at last year's FUT fantasies. So, we've moved to last year's FUT fantasies, and here is Team 1. It was a very nice team. I'd argue is probably better players than this year, you know, with Rashford and Maxim, but obviously this year we do have the likes of the heroes. So, let's have a little look on when these players were the cheapest. So, last year these cards did go and get released on the 18th of March, so I'd say it was almost, well, yeah, it was about 2 weeks later than we had them this year. And the likes of Ruslan was 139. He then went up after one day, then went down on a Sunday, then went hold on the Monday, went down on the Tuesday, went down significantly on the Wednesday, and then was up a little bit on the Thursday. Which meant Ruslan was the cheapest on a Wednesday, and there was, I guess, between the release and Wednesday, there was about almost a 20% drop. So there was a really, really decent reason to wait till Wednesday. Then the rise between Wednesday and Thursday was about 3-4%. So we got Wednesday being the cheapest on Ruslan. We then head to the likes of Lucas Moura, and his cheapest point was on Friday. So, Wednesday and Friday. We then get to the likes of Donny van der Beek, and his cheapest was on Thursday. So we got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We then got Nani. Nani's cheapest was on the Monday. And if we look at his Wednesday, Thursday, Friday price, he was up around about 6-7%. So we got the cheapest points being Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Brilliant. We then get to Klosterman. On the Monday he was 391, and on the Friday he was 387. On the Thursday he was also 391, so that is now 1 for Monday, 1 for Wednesday, 1 for Thursday, and 2 for Friday. We then get to Inaki Williams, and Inaki Williams was cheapest on the Thursday, which now means we have 1 for the Monday, 1 for the Wednesday, 2 for the Thursday, 2 for the Friday. And I've looked at the rest of them, and the running trend is some of them were the cheapest on Monday, but they were only up about 5 to 10%. Those that were the cheapest on the Monday were only up about 5 to 10% between the Monday and the Thursday. And the rise that these players had after was so high that the significancy of buying them a little bit later and potentially them being a little bit more inflated wasn't the end of the world. Like, he went from 121 to 166 in a week. Lucas Moura went from 814 to, hitting about 950 in about a week, and he went up to 1.15 after 2 weeks. Donny van der Beek went from 130 to 180. Nani went from 497 to 574. Klosterman went from 391 up to 494. Inaki Williams went from 43 all the way up there to 57. And these are all happening in the midst of like a week or two. So the relevance is that if you are buying a little bit off, it shouldn't be the end of the world, because the rises on these players were so good. Like, this guy got to, like, again, 73k, that a 5% increase or a 5% off on buying the players shouldn't be the end of the world, because they should be rising about 30-40% within 2 weeks if we're looking at last year's trends. So from last year's FUT Fantasy, I'd basically come to the conclusion, wait till Thursday. There is again the chance they'll be the cheapest on Monday. I'd say maybe about 20% of the players were probably cheapest on Monday, but the vast majority were cheapest on the Thursday and Friday. Even though when we looked on Wednesday, I think it was up like a few percent between Wednesday and Thursday. Your best point on buying them, looking at FUT Fantasies, was the Thursday. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to look at the likes of Road to the Finals. Now, you wonder, why are Road to Finals relevant? Now, some of these cards didn't play until 1 week after they were released. So, for example, you've got the likes of Fofana. Fofana didn't play when these cards are released. Fofana plays this up and coming week. Now, the relevance to that is that Foot Fantasy cards don't actually get upgraded instantly. They only got upgraded, I think, 1 week after the release of the promo, which is why they rose after the promo, because the cards weren't getting upgraded, I think, until here. And the relevance of the cards not getting upgraded until here is this is all pre-hype, and obviously if the cards are getting upgraded the week they were playing, there wouldn't be much room for pre-hype. So the relevance of going back now to the road to the finals is that these cards weren't getting upgraded for a week or two, which meant everything they've done between the release of this promo and then playing this up and coming week is pre-hype. So what I think we can do is I think we can very easily compare the road to the finals that haven't played yet, that are going to rise because of pre-hype, in comparison to fantasies, because they basically have the same amount of time. You have to wait until they get upgraded. So look here at Malin. Now, he was cheap on the release and then did go up a little bit, so he was cheap there on the Saturday. And then was, how much is he here? Literally the best part of 2k. And his cheapest time right here is Saturday and Friday. Trends on this is a little bit interesting, because the reason these were the cheapest, I think, is because some of the road to the finals went down after they played. So because some of the road finals went down after they played, even though Malin didn't play, it created a bit of panic. Which is why he went down on the Friday and Saturday. But Malin does have a slightly different trend to the rest. We then head to the likes of Fofana. And again, Fofana was the cheapest hit on the Sunday. Then all the road finals rose. Now, the thing is, I don't think we're actually going to see this trend with them being the cheapest on the Sunday. Because the reason he rose is because the rest of the road finals rose. Because the ones that were playing were obviously playing that week and they got upgraded that week. And people panic bought them, and that caused people to go and panic buy these cards. So I wouldn't so much look at the Sunday trend on here, because I believe this happened because of people panic buying the ones that were getting upgraded this week. Well, Fofana again was the cheapest right here on the Thursday. Then had a slight rise on Friday, and then rose really nicely over the weekend. We'll then head to the likes of Nunes, who was the cheapest right here on the Thursday. Even cheaper than his Sunday price, so he didn't actually rise enough with the rest of the cards getting hyped up. But there you go, 4-6, and then obviously he rose really, really nicely. That's him cheapest on the Thursday. And then I was looking at the Europa League cards, but there is an argument for saying that they rose loads because they got upgraded, which obviously they did. But pre these cards getting upgraded, we're looking at Friday being the cheapest on this one. We're looking at Tal being the cheapest on a Thursday. We are looking at Martinelli being the cheapest here on the Thursday. And I believe that is all she wrote. So we go back to give you a little overview. Foot Fancies, cheapest on the Thursday, an outside chance the cheapest on the Monday. And then we look at the road to the finals that weren't getting upgraded. They were the cheapest on the Sunday, but I'd kind of almost exclude or ignore the rise, because I believe the rise happened because people panic bought the other road finals, which meant that the second cheapest point was Thursday. And because the Thursdays are overlapping between the trends of Foot Fantasy last year and road to finals that weren't getting upgraded for a week this year, I would imagine that the buy time on these cards is going to go and be on Thursday. So we've now gone and decided when the buy time is. I mean, a lot of promos this year are Thursday. You get the odd Monday, but if you want to play it very safe, you always wait till a Thursday. So we are now going to go and look at the players themselves and which ones we fancy investing in. So we've obviously got the Foot Fancies and we've got the Foot Fancy Heroes. So there is a bit of a rule of thumb when it comes to investing, and that is that you don't really invest in players above 200-300k. Now the reason for that is because the players who are above 200-300k normally aren't mass bought, because, you know, when it comes to cards that are 1,000,000 coins, no one really has that money, which means that normally there's a much lower return on investment and a much lower rise on these cards because, you know, people just can't afford them, and you don't have the masses buying them. So the problem with that is it does kind of kill and make a lot of the heroes null and void, because, you know, there aren't people out there to mass buy Cordoba, there aren't people out there to mass buy Pele. But obviously with the Foot Fancy team, the majority of these guys are sitting under 200-300k, and as a result are probably going to be your investments. So the first thing that we always look at is the most used players. So when we come to Foot Fantasy, we can see Benrahma is the most used player at the moment, followed by Isaac, Alexis Sanchez, Skriniar, Saliba, Llorente, Fernando, and the rest. I'll be honest with you, I do really like the likes of Benrahma. He's a Premier League player. Premier League players are normally very well demanded. He's the most used player. Obviously, he's got multiple position utility with the likes of Cam and out on the left. The only problem is obviously West Ham. Is the pre-hype going to be too amazing for a team that's in relegation? That is the main problem I think you do have with him. And I think that does reflect with him only being 81k. Bear in mind his card is 89 rated. We then go to the likes of the Foot Fancy Heroes, and we've got Peter Crouch, who is the most, followed by Rickon, Carroll, King, Pele, Capdevila, Cordoba, and surprisingly, last, Ginola. Now, this hopefully just shows you the fact of cards not being mass bought. Now, obviously, the supply to demand ratio is different on these players, but Ginola is the least used, and that's because he's an 11 million coin card, whereas Crouch is one of the most used because he is a lot more affordable. So then it comes really down to which ones do we prefer out of, because in the Foot Fancies I'd be looking at the likes of Benrahma. I'd probably look at Isaac. I'd say he's probably going to get cheap enough. And I would just keep it to these two, if I'll be completely honest with you. I don't see there being anywhere near as much hype for a centre-back as there would be for forwards. Likewise, I don't see the Serie A being too interesting compared to the Premier League. And then I do also like the investment in the likes of Peter Crouch. So I'd really just go with Benrahma, Isaac, and the likes of Peter Crouch, with maybe an outsider Rickon. Rickon is being used a fair bit. He's also only going to probably set you back about 80k by the time we're buying him on a Thursday, which should be quite nice. Now we do also have a mini release with Fabian and a few others, so if you want my 2 cents on them, you can always join my stream. But my plan of action is going to be now to wait till Thursday, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go invest in the likes of Peter Crouch, we're going to go invest in the likes of Alexander Isaac, and the likes of Benrahma. Now when it comes to selling these cards, if we go and look at the research, so I've now done a little bit of research on when to sell the cards, because obviously this is probably a question you guys are interested in. Now, what's quite interesting is I've gone and done research on Roussillon, and I've gone and done research on the likes of Gelson Martinez for Monaco. Well, these cards didn't get upgraded, or the games were irrelevant until the 1st of April. Now, Roussillon's first game after the 1st of April was the 3rd of April, where Wolfsburg went and lost to the likes of Augsburg 3-0. So they played on the 3rd, here's his price on the 2nd, and he dropped. Now, an interesting observation is then they won next week. They won the following week against Arminia Bielefeld. They won 4-0. And that was on the 9th. So what happened to his price on the 9th? It continued dropping. So he dropped when he lost, he dropped when he won. And then we had the likes of Gelson Martinez, who had a really nice rise right here. He then went and played on the 6th. We can see right there, 6th of April. And they went and won, 1-0. Now, he did have a dip pre this. I wonder if maybe there was like an SBC or something that dropped him. And he did rebound a portion of the dip. But it still wasn't amazing. And then after that, it was nothing but really dropping for the best part of what? Dropping for the next week. And then he did go and rebound after. But there was no significant rise more than before their first game. And I believe this will be a trend that happens across the board, because it's a very consistent trend that happens in FIFA. Unless the outcome is an unfavourable outcome and that ends up happening. So what I really learned from just researching this is that, again, I probably should look at more players, but it's all pre-hype. And that's no surprise. It happens time after time. Where these players are more before their first game than they are any time. And again, it's because just so many people get caught up into the investment, whereas people just don't really demand the card. In reality, no one really wants the Roussillon. It's just everyone hyping him up and buying him as an investment. So the plan of action is going to be now to wait till Thursday, to go and buy Benrahma, to go and buy the likes of Crouch, to go and buy the likes of potentially Rickon, and potentially go and buy the likes of Isaac, and then go and sell them before their first game. And that is all she wrote. Now, if they don't have a good rise going into their first game, it could be a chance that you're going to gamble a little bit more. But obviously gambling isn't so much investing, so I wouldn't recommend that. But that is my complete guide to Foot Fancies. Hopefully it's helped you guys out, and I'll see you guys with a brand new video.